Yes, very good. We can start now because the walk just came in. And it's 10 to 2, so we're starting really late. I hope you didn't get bored with the questions. So first of all, we have put an agenda also online on Meetup. The idea was that we do a short mining introduction, which we basically already did a little bit, and some questions, what people would like to see on the workshop. So I think we get a little bit of a gist where people are looking for already. And then around 1:45, which is now, we would start unpacking a totally new device coming from Austria. So a new factory was built there, where they basically put hash boards out of a machine like this into a heavy device. It's almost 30 kilograms. And they want to basically heat a lot of homes with this. And it's quite easy to communicate with this device. So that's what we will soon have someone coming to just do this on the stage. Then we will have some building. So in the back there are a couple of tables where we will actually, the people who would like to do that, refurbish, let's say, or rebuild an S9, so 5+-year-old miner, which is still in perfect shape. Put silent fans on it, put a silent fan in the PSU, so the power service unit. So it's actually becoming a small desk/home heater. Then at 2:45, we are planning a generic discussion about pool decentralization and a little bit about the future of mining, or where we think it is going. And then quite some time also, 2:45 to 3:30, questions and open discussion. I think what we just did, I think, is already really helpful for everyone to just discuss. And then from 3:30 to 4, we have drinks and open discussion at the bar at the end. In between, so what I'm just saying with the S9 silent building, because we can't cram everyone around the tables, you can just go for the toilet break or you can get something to drink, and there will be like a turnover of the people that will be building, and you can tag along a little bit with it. That's the idea of the agenda for today. Then I also wanted to thank everyone for coming, because I didn't really expect this to happen. Actually, the place where the bar is was actually the location where we would have this tiny workshop, and I was asked if I wanted to give a little workshop, and I thought, yeah, maybe 10 people would join me. And then we need to basically compensate for the cost, and the rent of that little part was already 400 euros, so it was a bit of a stretch. So I thought, well, let's try. Let's see who comes up, and now there are over 50 people here, so that's quite amazing, to be honest. And then we are recording some video. Of course, we will not really point on faces, but if you really don't want to be on the camera at all, make sure that you keep your back to the cameras, or sit really at the back so you're not really in the screens. With the building of the S9s, the right table over there, we will take some videos of the hands and what the people are building, so we can actually look back on what we actually did in the workshop. So that's only the table closest to the window. And then privacy. Privacy, it should be your choice to whom you want to reveal yourself. This fits in. So Bas, who I'm giving the workshop with, will not be on screen, and you will not hear him back on the video that we will put online later, because he wants some privacy. And I think it's really important. So I also put a coin join on the left, an art that Canuto specifically created in stainless steel, so it will last, I hope, forever. Basically the story where now the war on privacy, coin joining is becoming a little bit difficult at the moment, is being told a little bit on the little wood board below. So also take some time looking at that. Then I would like to really thank all the plebs in the Netherlands, because the mining group, which was started not super long ago, a couple of years, has already grown over 200 people, and people just dump all their creations and share it with everyone. And by this we are iterating at a really rapid pace and progressing with home mining and heating and access electricity usage solutions on small scale, which is really beautiful to see. So we bring the bank back to the people and back home. It's really nice. And then again, before we really start building that one up and to show what it is and how easy it's becoming, I want to give a little bit of a spectrum because I think, especially for the Netherlands, the electricity market is a really weird phenomenon in that sense, because it's quite centrally steered by our government. And there are two main locations where it makes sense. So if you have a very low electricity usage, you're quite heavily subsidized on a low usage. So you could use that little bit with mining, and then actually you would profit from it. And then, of course, on the perspective, if you're a super large consumer, you basically don't really pay tax over your kilowatt hour. It also makes sense very rapidly. And then in the middle, you have the solar panel people, the people who put something on their roof, which will soon have a problem delivering their electricity back on the grid. So these are the opportunities that, especially in the Netherlands, are there, and which we see for the next few years, where we can actually use this electricity. So I also wanted to see an extra opportunity, which I heard yesterday, Mr. BTC Map. Can we get Mr. BTC Map a mic, just for a short interruption? Yeah, that's fine. He's at the front, most. So Mr. BTC Map yesterday told me he has like some kind of camper or something there where he's generating some electricity on a small solar panel or some solar panels.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, off-grid system. So I think we have got 600 watt of solar, and then 10 kilowatt of hours of lithium. So right now I've just got a single bitax, which is running the S21 chip, but just one single chip. So you're getting 0.75 terahash out of that. But that's been running continually at home because I just installed it a few weeks ago. On very little solar because I live in Manchester in the UK and it doesn't really, it's raining most of the time. But no, that's been running constantly now for like a couple of weeks. So I've got capacity, I think, power-wise to maybe get up to something like 10 terahash working off the truck. And when we're traveling and it's sunny, then we're also recharging our batteries from the truck alternator. And so I think the biggest problem is going to be the heat that's coming from the mining equipment, because it's co-located with the batteries and some other DC transformers and stuff. So I think the big problem will be overheating of the ASICs. So we have to figure out some sort of ventilation sort of thing there.
Yeah, so it's often twofold. Indeed, it's the heat and of course also the sound in general. But as you're saying, you're now using a 5 volt, so you have an extra, let's say, change of voltage which you need. But so the new miners that are coming are going to be 12 volts, so it's basically directly integrated into these off-grid systems.
So the bitax is at the minute mostly 5 volts. So, but as you start to ramp up the power requirements, then you need to start to ramp up the voltages as well. So, 12 volt or 24 volt would work perfectly for us.
So that's what's coming, and the nice thing is there's so much of these 12 volt installations on campers, on caravans, and they are in the sun standing there and this energy is not being used at all. So why not just mine this electricity directly? So these are extra opportunities that are there just for the hobbyists to really use. So thank you, Nathan, for the explanation. And then Mr. Danish Delight can come forward. We will unpack the oven. So this is the Oven Pro of 21 Energy, which will be sold throughout Europe. So, okay, this is going to be heavy. Yeah.
There you go.
I think it has electricity. Can you hear it running already?
No, I'm not sure. I don't know if there's a switch.
There's
on
no
it.
switch.
No.
We will check if the electricity goes on.
Yeah. But there's no turning on switch.
No. Should just run. Okay, I'll pick the electricity from the other side.
And
Of course, always things go bad, but
you're sure that that's plugged in?
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So I think we need to check the cable.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's take it from this one. Can you unplug it there, please?
Yeah.
I think there's an.
I think it's actually now showing up on my Bluetooth devices.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess you just have to connect it.
This now you hear it.
Oh yeah, now it's okay. So oof, no.
Yeah. So just to explain a little bit. So this is a single hashboard miner. So what is in here is basically in this machine there are 3 boards that are actually used to run through. So it needs a lot of air and it creates a lot of heat. So it's yeah, let's say from 1 kilowatt to 4 kilowatts, you can tune it up and down. So what these guys did, they bought these things in bulk, took one hash board out, they put it in this really beautiful metal system where they put a lot of silent fans around it. And this has a filter at the bottom, quite some fans at the bottom and some fans at the top, which are a bit tilted, and that then spreads the heat. And it's basically like their idea was, it's called the oven, so it's like an old-fashioned, let's say, wood fireplace, but it's running on electricity. So if you look at this machine, it's one of the most efficient machines, and also fully tunable with kilowatt hours. So if you have, for instance, Home Assistant, you can actually tune it up and down based on either your thermostat or on your electricity access, and then it runs between a couple hundred watts up to, let's say, 1.5 kilowatt. So you can stretch that out a bit. So how's it going?
So what we did now, just connected to power, and they have made an app. So I opened the app, connected it, and now it's asking for the Wi-Fi. I picked the Wi-Fi, and I need you to put in the Wi-Fi password.
The Wi-Fi password. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's very nice. So let me check.
Yeah.
So it's basically unpacking. They build an app around it, and then let's see. The Wi-Fi password is. Okay, we say connect.
Did you press it?
Yeah, I pressed it.
Okay. Mm. Yeah, I can scroll down.
I think I took the wrong one.
That's
Okay,
strange.
it's connecting now. So, but the thing is with this machine is that it's dead silent. So it's actually really nice to have somewhere in a room to actually put some extra heat in, or if you have access, that you can actually use it. And it's not like a machine like that where we would all be deaf here and we need to protect our ears. So
This is not connecting.
okay. So it looks like it's not connecting. So it's a fresh build, new from the factory. It's currently not connecting. So
Try one more time.
okay.
Yeah, so the previous version, they did not have the app connection, so this is very, very new. So it's just to make it, supposedly to make it easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it looks like it's not working on the app currently. So they just built a new app, which they released actually today. It looks like we can't connect yet. But the thing is that they want to make it as easy as possible for people to set up. What you will see later when we do some workshop at the end, also with the S9, you will see that it's relatively quite a lot of steps to get a thing to mine, so to get a miner actually to work. So this would make it a lot easier for people at home to just put it there, open the app, connect, and then they can fire away. So that's also the goal. And yeah, it's I tested it for a couple of months already, but manually set up. It works really great. So this is now already being distributed in Europe and becoming one of these home miners that are relatively easy to use.
So,
yes?
it connects to a pool, I guess?
Yeah, so you can choose, of course, your pool again. And of course, you need to interest yourself a bit in what pool you would like to use.
Yeah, that's okay. That's not like baked in the firmware. You can choose your own pool.
Yeah. So what is running it is Brains. So the firmware that is on the steering is Brains. So in that sense, you can really choose, and you have full freedom. And that's why I'm also saying, like, if you have Home Assistant, which is open source, there is already connectors with Brains via the Home Assistant. So then you can steer however you would like this machine if you are a bit more technical.
You could also solo mine with it?
Sorry?
You can also solo mine?
Of course. You can solo mine with all the miners. The question is how profitable you will be.
How lucky?
I would. And this is something that is actually interesting, right? Because also with the bit axes and the smaller miners, you will see that maybe some people like to gamble a bit. And you're in the lottery every 10 minutes, right? So every 10 minutes you have this super tiny chance to actually find a block. And if you actually find it, you have 3.125 Bitcoin. So that's really, really insane amount of money for being in a lottery every 10 minutes. So, but the chances are extremely slim, as you're saying. Yep.
So you can see the fans running 20%.
Yeah.
Current temperature 35.
Yeah.
But it has not connected to the Wi-Fi, I think.
Okay.
But so I'm not sure if this information is via Bluetooth. Probably it is.
Okay. So it gives information via Bluetooth.
I guess.
Yeah. So it connects via Bluetooth, and then indeed, when the Wi-Fi is connected, it would ramp up when the pool is inserted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just put in your Brains pool username and log on.
Yeah.
So I think it should be working. The only problem is the connection.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
It might also be that the Wi-Fi here is a bit difficult to connect with.
Yeah.
So, but we will go further on that later.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Very good. Yes. Okay, that's a good point. So the Wi-Fi actually, we just got a technical detail from the back that it might be that the current Wi-Fi that's running here is 5 gigahertz only, and then if this is a 2.4 gigahertz, then there's no interconnect. So we might find out later, but let's see. We'll get a small group also working on this one to get it to run. Yeah, question?
What's the price?
Yeah, so currently they are being sold for €3,500. And a lot of people will say, whoa, that's quite a lot of money. But you have, of course, money coming back with Bitcoin. And it's a super decent build. So if you later on try to pick it up, it's a 30 kilogram heavy oven, let's say. And it works really well. So it's worthwhile, I think, for the people that like to have something nice at their home. Any other questions? Yeah? Yeah. It works off 220 to 240 volts. Yeah, so a regular plug socket. Yeah.
If you have excess power, what would be the best way to then utilize it or turn it into heat? Use one of those, or use a miner and then?
Yeah, this is a miner, so it's just a miner inside. So
Exactly the same.
it's exactly the same, but the difference is between this and the industrial machine is that this is 85 decibels, 3 kilowatts. You can't really tune it down as much because there are 3 hash boards inside. So you want maybe a normal plug socket. This has 2. You need 2 plug sockets and a separate group. You know, it's quite a lot of effort for someone. So if you plug this in and 2 plug sockets at home, you probably blow out the fuse. So these industrial solutions are not really made for homes. Yeah. So that's why this is then an option. But this option, it's relatively expensive, but really nice and really well thought out. So also easy to use. But there are a lot of hobbyists who build the same thing. So you can build exactly the same thing, copy it, let's say, but then with different shells around it. And it might be cheaper, but it looks totally different and might not be as durable, let's say, as this is. Yeah.
How many decibels?
Yeah, it's almost it's super silent. So below 50, it's you will hear it when we later on have it running. So cool.
I just put a speaker
Yeah.
there with the Wi-Fi.
Okay.
That you can use it for.
Yeah, we will do that later when we start doing the S9s too. So then we can combine the 2 connectors.
Yeah, so that was just to let you know that I've connected it to my own now and it worked. So I can see it running now. Yeah.
Oh, it's
And
running now.
So all it asks for is your brain's username, and that's it.
Okay, perfect. So
very
it's
easy.
running now. So this
Yeah.
is the sound then.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So now you know how loud it is. You hear more people than. Yeah, how much is it running on now?
Yes, it's running fans 20%.
Yeah, and then how many terahash?
I cannot see that. Maybe if I log into my brains pool, I can see it. Just
Okay.
like,
Yeah, so it in general it runs around 20 to 30, let's say, terahash. So that's about the range where you would like to be running on because it's a low wattage, really efficient, and then you have some nice terahash coming out also. Yep.
You have to provide your own board, or does it come?
It comes complete, so that's why we just put it up. This was literally the box coming from the factory. We take it out of the box, we plug it in, you connect with the app, and you connect with your pool and you run. That's the whole idea about this,
Yeah,
that people can really easily get this set up.
yes, I just keep the workshop going.
Okay? Yeah, so that's the...
Ask a lot of questions.
Sorry, people, because I can we all settle down a bit? So the question was, what if the temperature in the surroundings really start to get hot? And that's, with all the miners, really an important topic, because the efficiency really starts to drop and the fans really need to ramp up to keep the chips cool. So when you're in a cool environment, of course, it's much more efficient, but when it's running hot, you need a lot more cooling, and that cooling also reduces your efficiency.
Do you have any numbers on the liquid-cooled miners? What is the limit before it starts getting hot?
Yeah, so there's a lot to be found also about liquid-cooled. So you have immersion, you have hydro, the different solutions, and then there's different efficiencies with different machines. So it really depends on where you would like to focus on where, what the machine does with all these extra inputs, let's say. So there's no rule of thumb that we can just tell here.
But this machine was designed to be a heater, right?
Yeah, this is specifically just a heater.
It doesn't make sense to run it in a hot environment, I guess.
No, in general, you should not air cool mine too much in extremely hot environments, but they can take quite a lot. So if you look, I'm running them in the greenhouse, so if you look at those machines in the greenhouse temperature reaches beyond 40 degrees Celsius sometimes. But the miners are just okay. They just consume more electricity because they need to cool more. And that's something where, at higher temperatures you lose efficiency. So preferably you're in cooler environments where you're more efficient. Yeah. Other questions?
The regulator fits off what temperature?
Yeah, so that's something you can set yourself. But dangerous temperatures are in the firmware in general already pre-put as a safety margin. But you can always play around with it. But don't set your house on fire. So. Yeah?
It's running on full power now, the mining?
No, it will probably not be running on full power now. Because if they go... it's running very low now, but when we can cramp it up a bit to the max, so 100%, and then you will hear what that does. But you will not run on 100% ever. That's really like extending it. Okay, it's 14:15, so that's exactly the finish time of the unpacking of the Oven Pro. So now we will move to a little break time. So in the back you can get some drinks, but also we will start building S9s. So again, the people who would like to be on camera or are okay with camera can go on the right table, build a silent S9 there. The other people can use the other tables to play around with the S9 a bit. And then we will resume on the generic session again in half an hour. So enjoy. Okay, everyone, we will start with the last part. Yes, exactly. So first, some generic questions that I received. What the hell is this thing here on the stage? This is an aluminium box that we created. It was first featured on Twitter back in the time when it was Twitter. And I videoed it in a greenhouse. This machine was actually inside it. And it was watched 500,000 times, and that's when Bitcoin Brabant started to run and the phone started to ring. So this was the start point for my little company, or endeavor. And over there is a box, so that's really a silencer box. This is version 8. We are, in the meanwhile, in version 13. All the drawings are available on the internet. So there are fireproof sound dampening panels on it. There's a round 315 connector, so you can put silencer pipes on it, and therefore you can go below the level of air conditioning if you connect it properly. And this was installed in many locations in the Netherlands, and I've built quite a lot, but a lot of people also build them themselves with the drawings. And then here on the right side we have some really nice stuff that was built by a lot of plebs across the globe. You have a special fan which is relatively silent. There's a special little chipboard on there which then steers this special fan, and then you can easily connect it for your home heating and fluctuate more easily. And this was built in the US first as an example, and we started to import this also into Europe, and this has been installed in quite some houses across the Netherlands also. Then some other hobby project a little bit on this side is where 3D printed connectors are put on this machine with silent mines, and therefore we run it on a little bit lower wattage, but then can still mine at a relatively okay sound level, and it's a relatively cheap solution to make this industrial machine run silently. So there are many options and things to see also in the background where people actually innovated and made it work really well. And this is shared along groups really nicely, so everyone builds forward on this knowledge. So we are a bit later than what was the planning, because there were so many people enjoying all the building of the S9s and all the questions that popped up there. So the last part that we are going to do is a generic discussion. So there's a mic going around where we actually talk a little bit about pool decentralization, a little bit about Lightning, and a little bit about the future of mining and where it might go in the next few years. So first, pool decentralization. If we look at the hash rate, we see that a lot of the hash rate is already consolidated in just a few pools. And this is in that sense a scary direction, because governments can easily enforce block templates, so which blocks are actually going to be mined on these pools. And that's something that might become a problem in the future. So the decentralization of mining, which means that we run pools with different templates or more open templates not enforced on compliance lists, are going to be important in the future. So what you see already is that there are some pools starting up where Stratum v2, which is a new protocol, is being implemented, and then the miner can actually choose the template of what they want to mine in their block. So what transactions will I actually mine? Which block will I actually create on this on this pool level? And then you have more choices. And then now also with the BitX movement, you see that there are open source miners. It's called OSMU, open source mining, where we actually basically refurbish mining, and a lot of people are going solo. So they say, okay, I have a very limited opportunity to win a block, but sometimes we win a block as solo miners, and we decentralize the hash, but also have this block template that actually fits with their personal beliefs. So we see that there is already a little bit of a movement going on there, but I believe that in the future, when governments really start to determine which transactions pools want to put in these blocks, that a lot of miners will choose to mine to different pools, let's say, just to keep the network as open as possible and to make sure that everyone can keep on using Bitcoin, because that's in the essence where it's about. Then, are there any questions about pool decentralization? Yes. The mic. Is someone there with the mic? Yeah.
The pools that are now very big, do we know, because a lot of people that mine join a pool, so is there any thing that we know about how decentralized within the pool really is, of how centralized the pool really is? So how much hash rate has the pool itself and how much is joining in, because it's easy and you get your reward?
Yeah, so if you look at mempool.space, there's a mining tab. And on this mining tab, you can quite easily see how this distribution of hash rate is within the pools. And if you then look, you see Foundry USA. So yeah, I think it's quite clear what's happening there. You see Endpool, which is a pool, Endminer. So Endpool, Chinese, let's say. So a big pool with a lot of hash rate, which is called Endpool. So yeah, you could have a guess about who's delivering hash rate there.
No, but I mean, if in America somebody joins that pool and he decides in the future, what you're telling, to join another pool.
Yeah, that's just a switch. That's just a switch of a second. So
but do we know how much people can switch, or how much the company itself has of its own hash rate, and how much is joining in?
I don't see any data on this. Let's say, so if your question is really, we want to see what on an individual scale is being inputted into these pools.
Because that could be taken out if they don't like what that pool should be doing.
That's most likely what is going to happen. So when pools, we saw this, so F2 pool, for instance, at some point, they said, okay, we run the OFAC compliance list. There are addresses which are on this list where we should not do the transactions for, and that was noted. So miners started to leave. And then they said, okay, no, sorry, we will not use the OFAC compliance list anymore. But it's very likely that in the future there are pools who are going to do this. And it might be that governments actually enforce indeed a miner in the US to go with the OFAC compliance list, and these large locations are obliged to mine with a certain pool because they also want to tax it. So the issue with larger installations is that they quite easily are enforced into being compliant in a more national or a local level. The nice thing is, as soon as that starts to happen, they will become less profitable. They will also maybe get some more cost if there's taxes incurred on this. And then actually the competition will start to take over because it becomes more profitable in other locations. So game theory starts to kick in. But in general, like if you look at the scenarios that we expect, is that there will be basically government mining or government okayed mining. And there will also be like a lot of people who are around here who will actually want a free system and run that. And then most likely the transactions will still run through, but some of these transactions will not be done by this compliant group, but they will just be done by this other group. And that's where the struggle in the end is going to most likely be, how this hash rate flows up and down between these compliant and non-compliant miners, let's say. And that depends on jurisdiction. You have a US compliant, then you have, so that's going to differ. But the nice thing is, if you look at mempool, you see Foundry USA, very large share. You see Endpool, large share. You see F2 pool. You see a couple of these pools which are relatively large. And you see, of course, the smaller pools where a lot of the people here are putting hash rate in. And they regularly, they mine the blocks, and we all get our little share there. So that's how I see it going in the future. Yeah.
You said the compliant pools will be less profitable. Do you expect the forbidden transactions to pay higher fees?
Yeah, I expect that they will pay higher fee. And for instance, if a larger percentage of the hash rate at some point has these compliant lists, then the non-compliant, let's say, transactions or the transactions that are not really wanted there could pile up. And when that starts to pile up, of course, you want your transaction to be settled, so you start to pay more. So when this, they call it basically black market, white market, but that, of course, again, depends on the jurisdiction. So we are currently in a stage where all these governments have different views on Bitcoin mining and Bitcoin by itself. But in a decade from now, when Bitcoin becomes a large part of the global economy, it might be that governments get together in that sense more and then start to enforce on local levels with larger mines these kind of lists. That's a possibility, and then you really get like a black market and a white, but it's not in the short term. That's not what I see happening, because it's currently so distributed with governments looking at it in such a different way that that's still quite far out. So, other questions? I saw some hands. 1 sec, yeah.
You have got a lot of miners here which are air-cooled. Do you have any experience with miners cooled with water?
Yeah, so you have hydro miners. There's some experience there also, and we have also immersion. So that means that there's an oil where you sink the device into the oil, and then the heat transfer is done in the oil. And in general, what they always do is that they use a heat exchanger. I was searching for the word. So a heat exchanger, and that's both with the hydro as with the immersion setups, where you then use the heat in warm water in a system. So that's a greenhouse. That can be also your traditional heating system in your home. There are solutions for that. But as I'm saying, for smaller scale, there are not many off-the-shelf solutions yet, but they are coming.
And bigger solutions for companies?
Yeah, they are already
producing
there.
companies?
Yeah, there are a lot of them there. So if you look, for instance, in Finland, there are a lot of heat grids already there that heat entire areas with houses on Bitcoin. You see in the Netherlands, there's a lot of megawatts at greenhouses where they reduce the natural gas use and now use the miners to actually balance the grid and heat the greenhouse with immersion setups. And there are a lot of locations already. So there's tons and tons of examples everywhere. And also on the plat mining level, the people that really like to build things, I've seen swimming pools, I've seen home heating. I've seen a lot of these things, but these people don't want to get public about this. So there's a lot there, but that's, as I'm saying, not off-the-shelf solutions yet. Other questions? Yep.
Maybe a follow-up and then linking on to the...
One sec, the mic.
So this is maybe a follow-up on the decentralization of the hash rate. So if a lot of more companies, as you say, in the Netherlands are onboarding Bitcoin miners to heat their kassen, greenhouses, then are you kind of actively helping them choose which pool to work on, or how do you see your role in that?
Yeah, so it's rather broad in that sense. So is it actually profitable? How does it look? What kind of installations are there? What the possibilities are there? And then indeed, like what is your pool choice? Where will you secure your Bitcoin? If it's a large installation, how are you going to cope with that? So there is a ton of questions once you go down that rabbit hole of how you can do this and how you can look at this. So I'm currently working on quite some projects where, for instance, a very large industrial player who creates insulation plates is looking at heat processing, also with mining maybe, because they have a huge excess electricity capacity. And we are now calculating, because they need year-round heat, they have almost year-round access, especially in the weekends when the factory is not open. So if we put a buffer there and we put the heating solution there, then we can fully use the renewables, because they can't deliver anything back on the grid. And we secure, in that sense, with the buffer, the heat, and you can repurpose that in the industrial process throughout the week. So these kind of things are relatively complex, but once you go down that rabbit hole and work it out, it's actually quite profitable and interesting to do this. And then, of course, all the after effects come, which pool, because most of the time the people that make these decisions don't know anything about Bitcoin. They just think in euros and they see a profitable option and they just ask, okay, what does this give me? And then often the deal breaker is, in that sense, the volatility still of Bitcoin. So that's really where we see that it was a couple of years ago when I started a lot more difficult, because the amount of explanation I have to do about Bitcoin is a lot less already. And I think also people see it in a much more positive way than a couple of years ago. So it's already shifting. They know a little bit more, but we're still far away from mass adoption, let's say. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah. Bitkassa?
What does it take to start your own pool? And would it be possible to, like with the people we are here now, we're totally enthusiastic to start our own pool?
Yeah, that's a bit difficult. There are some ideas where people want to start their own pool, but there are really great solutions for either solo mining, and there's really a lot of choices in pools already. So I would really look into what is there already, and there's a lot of open source pools also, so you would basically be able to copy the code. But the question is, do you want to go in that direction? I think there's a lot of choice already, and try to find what fits you best. So look at Kano Pool, or look at CKDev Solo Pool, look at all these nice little pools that are there. And you can scroll through endless pools at mempool.space also. You just see the list of hash rate. Just check their websites, check how they do it, check what, there's so many options. And it's really nice to also investigate that a bit. Yeah.
In a practical sense, what actually do you need to start a pool? You need one miner and software or something? Or
in that sense, that's solo mining, right? So you can do solo mining and then you are your own pool, right? So in that sense, but there is some like coordinator there, but you can pull that towards yourself also. There are options to do that. But it's not extremely easy, let's say, but I think for you it would be quite easy, let's say. So
Thank you.
It depends on the person, but there are possibilities. Yeah. And then, so coming next to this question, then the nice thing is that some pools are now also implementing Lightning payouts. And then it also becomes really interesting, because before, when you would mine, you needed a certain threshold before you would get your payout in Bitcoin, and that's on-chain. So on the base chain, it's relatively expensive in that sense. But now Lightning comes in, and pools start to adopt Lightning. So you can actually get the sats directly. So it makes sense to have a very low wattage miner, a very low hash rate. You can mine and just save some sats and then directly get them into your wallet on Lightning. Super nice because we decentralize more and you actually get some rewards in a niche way. So I'm really happy to see that Lightning is now slowly getting implemented in some pools. And I think that will bring a lot of miners, especially in the Netherlands, online, on access. And in 2027, when the solderingsregeling stops, where people all have to start shutting off their solar panels, why not put that in a machine and get some nice ice cream in Arnhem out of that, right? So that's in the end where I think it will go. So, Other questions? Not really?
Sorry, just one.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of on the compliance front, like with Ocean now providing multiple templates, obviously they were filtering / censoring depending on your point of view. What's your personal view on that? And do you see that kind of less open, more opinionated block template generation spreading across other pools as well?
I think it opened up this discussion which we are now having, right? So I think it's really nice that people now get to see, like, okay, these pools actually determine what is being mined. This is a risk, as I just pointed out. And I think at some point it's important that people get their own choice. And what Ocean is currently doing is they give you a choice. Huh? So you either choose this template, or this template. It's choices that people can make. So you can actually choose what transactions you would like to incorporate in the blocks. And I think this movement will go further, where indeed with Stratum v2 and your own template building, this will increase more in the future, where people will decide, more exact of what they actually want to mine. I think that's for the plat mining community. I think it's a nice addition to be aware of what we are doing. And as you're saying, most of the people just say there should not be templating. It's just like you take everything, and that's currently also the case with all the pools. And there's like this exception now, which is Ocean. But at least it brings this discussion there. Because the other thing that might happen in the future, as I'm saying, the compliance and the enforced compliance that is coming, opens this templating discussion, which is insanely important in the next decade, I think. Yeah. Okay, Nathan.
How do we accelerate Stratum v2 adoption?
Yeah, I think that's about usage testing and making it more easy for people. Oh, sorry, the microphone. Yeah, Nathan, no problem.
It was how do we accelerate Stratum v2 adoption? I think particularly given that it's not necessarily in the large pool's interest to do so.
Yeah, so it's again personal choice, right? So the people that are mining, or the pool, the miners that actually want to use Stratum v2 or want to move in this direction are able to use this. And I think in the end, it's about the choice of the people what they will use. Even though if some large miners are not interested in it, it doesn't matter because you can use it, and it just gives you a choice. And I think that's already really important, looking at what the future might bring.
Yeah, it's how do we get the hash power to care? Because unless they're going to point hash to pools that adopt certain principles and adopt, Stratum v2, so we get to decentralize block template creation. You just got to vote your hash, but getting some of the public miners to do that is seemingly quite difficult.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where this fight will start to happen. And we all see that this is coming, right? When I just said that the F2 pool started to do the OFAC compliance, so we see that they are testing this, how far can some governments go with this. So you see that this is coming. And the nice thing is that we, as the normal folks, are actually able to distribute hash more. So just to give a plain example, there's a lot of people who were really fucked over with some of these hosted miners, right? And they had to pull away their rigs and put it somewhere else. And then the question is, where do you position them? Which country is actually really open for you to choose whatever template you're doing. Are they going to enforce something or not? So I expect there are quite some Bitcoiners that actually already own hash or want to own hash to make sure that the Bitcoin network stays free and accessible. And I think this fight is where it's all about in the next decade. So as I'm saying, I think there is where we will see it really going on. Yeah.
I know that there are a lot of variables about return on investment of such an oven. Can you elaborate that a little bit?
Yeah, so there are a couple of variables. Of course, your input is the most important, like your electricity price input. That's where everything starts. And then if you look at the hash rate that is actually running across the globe, that determines how large your share is in this total hash rate. So when there's a lot of build out, let's say from governments, what we just discussed, then you will get a smaller and smaller percentage of this total, and therefore it becomes less and less and less profitable. And then with the halvings, we see the amount of Bitcoin every 4 years, it halves, and then that means that currently with 3.125 Bitcoin per 10 minutes, that we actually get less and less Bitcoin. And if your input cost in fiat terms is actually going up while your Bitcoin is going down and the price of this Bitcoin in fiat terms is not coming along, a lot of miners can have issues or will get issues in the future because their actual break-even point is at a certain, let's say $cents per kilowatt hour level. So this is where these variables really, you really have to think about what your expectation is of the future. And I think then also in a regulatory framework perspective, it's actually even more important. So what we saw with a certain hosting company that they were actually mining in Russia and then went wrong with Russia, poof, everything is gone. How many people did get wrecked with that, right? So you really have to think of where will I mine? Do I actually have control over my rigs or not? And then that's, I think, one of the larger effects. And then next to that, you have the input and what your expectation is of the future.
Do you already experience more regulatory pressure here in the Netherlands in the mining industry?
No, I think our tax, so the Belastingdienst is very clear. You can find mining on the Belastingdienst website, so you know exactly what you have to do. So I think it's really clear in the Netherlands, and that's also why some larger scale miners are also ramping up here, because I think it's quite clear regulatory where we are at the moment. Yeah.
You mentioned templates a couple of times. What is actually enforced in these templates?
Yeah, that's your own choice.
Okay.
So how can you, a certain amount of V-bytes in a transaction? There are many things you can pick to enforce a certain template. And that's basically what Ocean is then doing, anti-spam, so different choices where they say, okay, we filter out certain transactions and that's where we template on. And that's things you can input
what are the rules of what is defined in this template then?
Yeah, so that's for your own pick, and that's something.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you look at the Ocean website, you can clearly see different templates. Yeah. And then they also explain what the template actually is and which transactions are excluded from what they want to mine and what transactions they actually, in that sense, pull forward into these blocks.
So the template defines what
is
you
going
will mine
into the
and
block.
what you will not mine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the miners, the pools in this case, always now make the choice. Yeah. And with Stratum V2, there's also coming an option where you actually, as an individual, you choose this template. So that's where it becomes interesting because what are people going to pick? Which transactions they actually want to see in these blocks? Yeah. Other questions? Not much. Okay, that's good. One more. Oh, that's good.
Sorry, no problem. I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on your decision-making tree in relation to the cost variables.
Yeah, for me, so we are here in the Netherlands, and electricity price is insanely high. So for me, it's very simple. We need heat repurposing, and we need excess electricity or super cheap electricity. And these are the inputs that are really important to make it work out. And throughout the last few years, I'm not a super experienced miner, by the way. The more experienced miners in general don't want to stand on the stage. So, but what I've learned over the past few years is that you really need to have a solid business case, because the volatility of Bitcoin can really break you if you are thinking too optimistic about Bitcoin and you are actually not capable of paying the electricity bill. And if you need to forced sell Bitcoin because you started mining, you're in a totally wrong position. So that's also why, in general, I focused on businesses, because they actually buy the electricity as a business, which therefore is already a lot cheaper. And then if you go on larger scale, or you have a lot of solar, or you have wind, where you have excess, then these calculations start to make more sense. But just as a rule of thumb, I would not advise people to ever start mining above 10 cents a kilowatt hour, because the competition will basically kill you. So try to always be below, and the further below you are, the better it is, of course.
Maybe as a follow-up question, do you hedge that exposure in the financial markets? And also, do you look at the hash rate to determine whether or not you should turn it on or not?
Yeah, so it depends. For some people, they switch on and off depending on the excess of their electricity or their electricity price. So they look at where do I find it okay, but they are more Euro-minded. But most of the installations I did is with family businesses. So these family businesses, they just want to save Bitcoin for the long term, for at least holding it for a 30-year period. So that's a totally different outlook. And they don't hedge, it's just they have this electricity use. In general, they need the heat, they have the excess anyway. It makes sense. We run it and we put it in a savings account, and we will have it for another 30 years at least, and maybe even the next generations. So if I look at most of the installations, above 90% of the installations, this is the case. It's a long-term savings plan. Also because what comes out of the mine is not something you bought with your passport in hand. It's something that you actually generated from the fresh coin base. So it's coins without a history. And that's something that real Bitcoiners appreciate a lot. So they give it some extra value in that sense. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Then I think we touched upon most of the topics. And we're actually 7 minutes past the drinks and open discussion at the bar. So then I would like to thank you all. There are also, by the way, some things in the back which you can buy, some books and some fun things. There are some free stickers in the box on the table there. So take as many stickers as you want. And yeah, I hope you really enjoyed it. Please give me some personal feedback also if you're still around, because this is the first time we do this publicly. And normally the setting is really small. So thank you all.